They will tell you that they are having their meetings. The only things that they're not having plenaries. They're having ad hoc committee meetings. They're not. The plenary hasn't held, so they'll tell you that they are there and they are looking at.
Have
things.
they really appointed any committees?
Well, they said they have committees, but they haven't put the
people
eyes
there.
on. Yeah, we have some of them. I mean, we've spoken to some who said they're in the ad hoc committee on media.
Yeah.
So they all exist, but they don't have substantive leadership in those committees.
So Nigeria is in an ad hoc state of governance.
Is that the way you see it?
That's the way Nigeria is being governed presently. Everything is ad hoc, nothing permanent. We are not sure yet. I am not, look, I have not, if I was Mr. President, I'll be happy with the situation. Because what Nigeria wants, and that takes me to the issue of homegrown democracy. What Nigeria deserves is what Nigeria is getting presently. You see, this democracy thing, I mean, somebody tying the hands of somebody, the people, I was in the category of people saying, oh, we expected Barry to hit the ground running. Hit what ground running? Very slippery ground. You know, later on I thought about it. I mean, the old man is overwhelmed. He's shocked by what he's saying. That's why I said, we'll go in there and crush Boko Haram. No, we can't do that. Let's negotiate. Because he's seeing things he never thought were there before. Are you with me? Then he said, okay, I have a list of 36 persons to recommend as ministers. And he discovers that less than 10% of the 36 were above beat the test for corruption.
So why would he be happy?
No, he can't be happy. But he can then decide, oh, look, let me just be going it alone for now. Until we can put proper persons in the institutions. It's dangerous. You will say it's undemocratic. You will say it's impunity. That's what people will say. But between you and myself...
But he'll make mistakes. I mean, he might even make worse mistakes than he would have made if he had ministers. Is that to say that everybody else who's currently helping him run the government squeaky clean?
When you see, he will make mistakes. He probably, the buck stops on his own table. Everybody will, Mr. Buhari, you made a mistake. You shouldn't have done that. People will take him to court. But in a situation where you have 36 ministers making mistakes at the same time, not mistakes, so deliberately making mistakes. Why would you say a minister made a mistake when they said some ministers were stealing 1 million barrels of oil per day? Mr. President made that remark, and I know that the man just doesn't talk anyhow. For him to say that, he must have, he said, we now have evidence that some of the ministers in the previous administration, they were stealing 1 million barrels of oil per day.
But you know,
why would you want to put somebody there that cannot even pass the minimum test? That out of 36, when I read that, I was shocked. And you will see that the people hovering around him, some faces have suddenly disappeared. I mean, I commend him for that. You can make statements, election promises. He made promises. And I was one of those that you made so many promises, no, keep your promise. But you see, you can't tell a man to keep a promise that can never be kept. He's been frustrated. In law, we say frustration. That arrangement has been frustrated by realities on ground.
The promises have been frustrated. Is that what you're saying? Because even the president did not say that. The president said that it's too early and that he still has 3 years and 3/4 of the year to be judged by what he said.
Well, you know, when I say promises frustrated, I'm not saying permanently frustrated. Sorry, I'm not being loyally here. I'm not using lawyers' tricks. What I mean is that, you know, Nigerians were eager. We changed this thing. You remember that day in the studio when, after the results were announced, you understand? Everybody danced for joy. Everybody was happy that, oh, change is coming. We thought that, I mean, everything would just, you know, you understand?
What did you, I'm sorry, I have to chuckle, but what exactly were you hoping to see immediately? I think that's all the questions we asked.
For instance, you had a president during campaign that, what is subsidy? It's just fraud. We will cancel it. We will remove it. And then the man comes and says...
He was never categorical on that.
Oh, he was categorical, but my own understanding, my simple understanding of English, subsidy is fraud and it must go. That was his statement.
He said there was no subsidy. That was what he said.
That's
which was subject to interpretation.
He said, my interpretation now is that he said it must go. We don't need it. That there's no need for subsidy. That all I'm saying is we have crude oil and that why would I be subsidizing? Why can't I just take the crude, refine, and bring it back and sell at a rate that is good for the people?
Or refine locally.
Or refine locally. That was what he said. But he now says, that was yesterday.
No, that was what you thought you heard. The reason
no. I wasn't hallucinating.
You know what?
That was what I had.
Mr. Loide, the reason why I'm saying this is because I do recall that we had spoken to, is it Mr. David Tam West?
Yeah.
Tam David West, I think. And he had said that, you know, especially now that the price of crude oil on the international market is down, a lot of people believe that the price of refined crude has also fallen. And that, you know, it should, when we're bringing it into the country, it should somehow balance itself out. There's also the question of crude oil swaps that the NNPC does to ensure that we get these products back. And people are wondering, okay, how does it then balance out? But on top of all of this, we still seem to be subsidizing heavily in terms of how much the Nigerian government literally has to cough out of its coffers for oil marketers. So in that arrangement, they believe that there was really no subsidy going on and that we were just subsidizing corruption. That was the explanation, I think, that quite a number of people got from that.
It doesn't conflict with my own position. I understood that explanation that, oh, there's no need for this, for subsidizing. We could do this. When I was Minister for Petroleum, this was what we did. Tam David West. He hasn't spoken in a long while after the elections. But I had...
Interestingly.
Yes, interestingly. He's been so quiet. So many people have gone quiet. President Buhari, during election campaigns, stated categorically, and I said this with all sense of responsibility, that, look, subsidy, it means nothing. It's just corruption. We can't continue funding corruption. And yesterday, I read it. I am not blaming him. That's part of the frustration I'm talking about. He then says, look, if we remove subsidy, Nigerians will suffer. Prices of goods will go up. Many Nigerians will not be able to afford their daily meals, this and that. So we need to look at it more objectively. For now, subsidy will stay. That's totally different from what is. So now that he has access to the files, he has seen it, he's seen what was on before, and he realizes that, look, so that's one reason why I appreciate the fact that he can no longer hit the ground running, because the ground is slippery.
Well, even though I think Elijah Muhammad said he has hit the ground running. The last time we interviewed him, he did say that much.
Mr. Lai Muhammad.
Yeah, but let's end with this, because what do you think that Supreme Court ruling where it says if you leave your seat as a member in the National Assembly, well, no, if you move from one party to the other, you lose your seat. Do you think that makes this scenario we have on our hands intractable or just normal?
I think the ruling is palliative. And it's not just about ruling. You know, the rulings of courts, judgment at times, they don't hit things on the head.
Because I heard those members bandied that. So, okay,
now, what I'm saying is, there should be no, until the court, and that's another problem. You understand?
The courts.
There are what we call judge-made laws. I mean, there's a man we all respect, Lord Denning. He did a lot of funny things. You can imagine a mathematician becoming a judge. So he will rule somehow, and people would abuse him. And over the years, though his position became laws in England. What I'm saying is that until the Nigerian judiciary, takes the laws and forces them down the throats of Nigerians. For instance, this issue of people cross-carpeting and they're making nonsense of their representative capacities. Until the court say, look, once you cross, I'm not interested in whether your party is in disarray, whether there's so. Once you cross, you are out of that place. Yeah, go and recontest.
But that law has to be amended for the judge to say that.
You see, that's what the interpretation given to it by the court matters. The judge made laws. That's judge made law. The court can be firm now and say, look, what you have done is reprehensible, is despicable. Despicable you. You are not fit and proper to remain in the legislative house. Go and contest again. See whether your people will vote for you. When the courts do that, some of these people, some of these funny characters will stop holding Nigeria to ransom. In
the meantime, we'll keep our eye on the ball and see how that eventually also plays out. Thank you for coming on, Mr. John Oloide, a legal practitioner.